Did you waste your life? Did I waste mine? Am I wasting it right now? I read all of your comments, and on the last video, a lot of you said some version of, I gave all my good years away for nothing. And that sentence has been sitting in my chest ever since. That's what it sounds like when you finally stop defending a life that's exhausted you. So here's what I figured out about that sentence. It sounds like it's about the years, but I don't think that it is. Even though the years are standing in a corner over there with their shoulders all hunched, looking guilty. I think it's about finally understanding what those years cost you and then getting mad at yourself for not knowing the price earlier. Yep, that's just a fancy way of saying that hindsight's a bitch. What's really happening is that the person that you are now finally understands things that the person you were then didn't know yet, and you're treating not knowing like a character flaw. But it wasn't. You didn't have the information yet. You were just younger. That's it. You hadn't lived enough years yet to know better, and nobody hands you a warning that says, hey, you're going to see this completely differently in about 20 years, so maybe you ought to slow down. No. You had pressure. You had bills. You had fear. You had family rules. You were just being whatever worked, and it kept working, so you kept doing it. That's not the same thing as knowing better and choosing wrong. That's knowing what you knew at the time and trying to survive inside of it. Yeah, try explaining that one to your own brain, though. Your brain does not care about nuance. Your brain just wants a verdict and probably some string cheese and a coffee. Posey has no idea what we're talking about today, but I guarantee you she supports snacks. The last video was about the fog, when the old instructions stop making sense. This is what's underneath it, because once the fog clears, you don't actually feel free. You just see every choice that you ever made clearly and realize that you've been grading yourself on a test that you didn't know you were taking. I'm Sheila, and I am not a coach, a guru, or one of those women that's telling you your pain is a portal. I'm just your internet auntie with mileage, maintenance issues, and a recent, deeply unflattering habit of putting my younger self on blast for choices that she made. This isn't really about whether you wasted your life. It's about whether it's fair to put your old self on trial for not already knowing what you know now. The part that messes with me is that so many of the choices that I question now didn't feel wrong when I was making them. They felt responsible and mature, like the kind of thing a grown person with bills, fear, and a nervous system held together with caffeine and spite was supposed to do. That's what makes hindsight so freaking rude. It shows up years later with a better understanding, points at your old life, and acts like everything should have been obvious. It wasn't obvious. I can look back now and see that some jobs were wrong for me long before I admitted that they were wrong. But at the time, they looked steady. They had a paycheck, benefits, a title, and just enough praise to keep me confusing exhaustion with success, which is basically corporate America's entire starter kit. I wasn't thinking this place is going to ruin me and still act like I should be grateful. I was thinking this is smart. This is stable. This is what responsible people do. Yeah, apparently responsible people love nothing more than ignoring chest pain and crying in their car. The same thing happens with relationships. You can look back and wonder how you didn't see the problem sooner, but the wrong person doesn't always arrive wearing a cape of red flags, right? Sometimes they feel safe. Sometimes they feel familiar. Sometimes they feel better than what you had before, which sometimes is a very, very low bar, like hell in a hard hat low. At the time, you aren't thinking, I'll make myself smaller so this relationship can just stay comfortable. You're thinking, this is commitment. This is what adults do. This is what love takes. And if you are trained to be understanding, flexible, patient, and easy to deal with, you can lose a shocking amount of yourself while everyone keeps complimenting your attitude. That's the trap, and it's a stupidly effective one. A lot of what I can now call fear, training, survival, or self-abandonment had much nicer names at the time. Things like loyalty, maturity, being realistic. I may have had moments where something in me said, yeah, Sheila, this doesn't feel right. But there's a difference between knowing something feels wrong and having enough clarity, money, courage, support, timing, and nerve endings left to do something about it. People love to pretend those are the same thing, and they're just not. They're not. That's why saying I wasted my life feels so convincing, because now the pattern is obvious. Now the job looks wrong. Now the marriage looks wrong. The role looks wrong, but it wasn't obvious then. It was your life then. It was bills, marriage, kids, parents, jobs, fear, loyalty, habit, hope, and whatever weird casserole of obligation everyone called being a good person was. You weren't watching from the outside knowing how it ended. You were inside the life, trying to make decent choices with whatever information and resources you had. That matters. Because if you judge the old version of yourself from here, of course, it looks like you should have known. You have the ending now. Old you didn't. That doesn't make you stupid. You were working with what you had. You were just younger. If this is hitting something, tell me in the comments what you can see now that you couldn't see then. I read every single one. Now I know mine, but what I didn't expect was what naming it would turn me into. Here's the nasty little trick of hindsight. The smarter you get, the worse your past looks, and that has nothing to do with how bad your past actually was. Yeah, not a thing. You're not judging with the eyes that you had. You're judging with the eyes that you have now. And that is not a fair test. That's someone with the answer key quizzing someone who hasn't even taken the class yet, and then getting pissed off when they give the wrong answers. Say you spent a decade chasing something that never paid off, the acting career, the singing career, the business that was always 6 months away from working. You can look back now and call that whole stretch a waste of time. 10 years gone, nothing to show for it. Yeah, I know that feeling. When my dad died, I decided to take that money that I got and sink it into my passion, which at the time was fused glass. So I opened up a little studio called Glassteria, which was a little fused glass studio that was kind of like a paint your own pottery model, except people made fused glass. You can make plates and vases and bowls and night lights and stuff like that. I went all in. I bought the best of everything. I built the studio that I wanted to build. Kilns, a ton of glass, a logo I paid an actual designer for, the whole 9 yards. I did not half-ass my business. Oh no, I did not. If I'm going to lose it all, I'm going to do it with excellent signage. Yeah, so the business lasted about 5 years and it sucked me dry. Eventually, I had to go back to corporate full-time during the day, and then I worked in the studio nights and weekends. Looking back, that's its own kind of unhinged. I'd be sitting in a status meeting at 8 a.m, smelling like kiln, nodding about quarterly goals with glass cuts all over my forearms. If anyone asked, I just said that it was a stray cat thing. But nobody asked. Corporate America does not care about your forearms. Was that wasting my life? No. It cost me. It exhausted me. It humbled me, but it wasn't wasted. I learned so much. I built something real. I tried something big. I made beautiful things, and I gave other people a place to make beautiful things too. The fact that it didn't become the life that I kept doesn't mean it was nothing. It means I only know now what that version of me couldn't have known then. She didn't have the ending. She had a passion, a plan, and enough small wins to make the next step seem reasonable. Past you didn't have your math. Past you had the dream, the hope, the pressure, the bills, and whatever proof existed at the time. You know how it ended now, and you're using the ending against the version of you who was still living through it. Yeah, I do this to myself like weekly, sometimes over coffee, sometimes at 2 a.m, sometimes while dissociating in the shower. I'll think about something that I did in my 30s and feel this hot flash of, what was wrong with you? Oh my God. And the answer is, nothing. Nothing was wrong with me. I just hadn't lived the years yet that would eventually tell me what I know now. I was working with what I had. I'm currently grading old me on what I have now and pretending that that's a fair fight. It's not fair. It's not even close to fair. It's a rigged fight dressed up as self-reflection, and we keep calling it growth. So, when that thought shows up at 2 a.m, insisting that you wasted your life, what it's really doing is asking why you didn't follow instructions that you didn't even have yet. The answer is you couldn't. You couldn't have. Here's the part that actually maybe will let you put some of this down. You couldn't have known sooner, not because you were slow, not because you weren't paying attention. Knowing isn't something that you find lying around like a coupon in a junk drawer. It's something the years build, and you can't build it faster than the years allow. The clarity that you're using right now to convict your younger self is not wisdom that you walked in with. That's the actual product of every year that you're currently calling wasted. You're standing on the years that built you, and you're putting those same years on trial for not going faster. Yeah, When you say it out loud, it does sound a little insane. You may have known pieces of it early. You may have known the job was draining you. You may have known the relationship was wrong. You may have known the role that you were playing was too small, too heavy, or too fake. But knowing something feels wrong is not the same as understanding what it's costing you. That part usually shows up later, like an annoying little delayed shipment from the universe. So, the years weren't empty while you waited for the clarity to arrive. Let me say that again. Your years weren't empty. They were the part where you were still becoming the person who could finally understand what was happening. Which is, infuriating, by the way. I know. I get it. So if you weren't slow and you weren't wasting time, then the question changes. It's not, did I waste my life? It's, what do I do now? So I'll tell you this, no, you didn't waste your life. You finally understand the life that you lived, and those are not the same thing, no matter how much they sound alike at 2 a.m. with your phone at 6% and 17 tabs open about whether your eye twitch means you're having a stroke. Why, yes, that is oddly specific. If you're interested, I do offer one-on-ones, workbooks, and a membership. All of my links are in the description. Every week I show up here and talk about the midlife stuff that nobody warned us about, whether it's work, finances, mental health, or starting over. If that sounds like your kind of place, hit subscribe. I'd love to have you here. I'd love to tell you that that's the end of it. That understanding is the finish line and somebody hands you a medal and a participation smoothie. It isn't. Understanding just means that you're no longer arguing with the past. You're standing in the present, finally facing forward. And forward is where it gets a little complicated. Because now you know you weren't stupid, you were just younger. But you're still here with whatever years you've got left. Now you get to decide what to do with a self that you finally understand instead of one that you've spent years convicting. Now I've got thoughts on that, and we're going to get to it next.